This painting, currently displayed in the Neue Gallery in New York, is worth 135 million US dollars. More money than me and you will probably ever see, collectively. But what makes it so intriguing and expensive? Granted, it does have a lot of gold. Whatever the reason, this stunning painting was right at the center of an international legal battle. But why? The Mona Lisa of Austria, it is instantly recognizable to anyone interested in visual arts, and for good reason. It's a remarkable sight indeed. However, it should be noted that the comparison to Mona Lisa is mostly reductive, unhelpful, and lacks any real insight. It's the kind of thing that people rally around to partake in the silliness. Putting aside some incidental similarities like the mysterious smile, there are major differences between the two. For instance, you've probably never heard anyone say that Mona Lisa, or Lisa Giocondo, to give her her real name, was Da Vinci's mistress. We all enjoy a good conspiracy theory every once in a while, but that would be clearly made up. So who's this lady in gold, and what is she hiding behind that curious smile? For now, let's start at the beginning. Our artist of the day, Gustav Klimt, was born to a gold engraver in 1862. Looking at this and some of his other works, it shouldn't come as a surprise. He attended the Vienna School of Arts and Crafts. He trained as an architectural painter and did studies of artworks by some of the revered masters like Peter Paul Rubens, Diego Velázquez, and Titian. He particularly admired Hans Mackart for his use of lightning, rich color, elaborate decor, and a sense of theatricality. Over the next couple of decades, he received several commissions, including painting murals at the Art History Museum and decorating the Viennese Burgtheater. Gustav was inspired by traditional academic forms of painting. History and mythology scenes were the prestigious genres of the time. All of that is true, but in the final decade of the 19th century, something changed. Klimt lost his father and brother in the same year. Afterward, he started to develop his own style, one that marked a shift from the rigid conformity of academic ideas to creative fluidity. This era of personal expression could be attributed to several factors: the Impressionist style that had started to take root in Parisian circles, an atmosphere of great political change, the introduction of new social ideals, rejecting the status quo, and much more. In the 1890s, as Europe was riding several waves of social, historical, political, intellectual, and consequently, artistic changes, some of which gave birth to the Vienna Secession, a sort of Austrian Art Nouveau, if you will. Artists in this movement decided to revolt against the established hierarchy of bourgeoisie academic art in favor of a more decorative and, in all honesty, fun style. This was done by bringing together decorative arts, design, painting, and architecture under a single umbrella called Gesamtkunstwerk, or total work of art. For anyone who's been to Austria, this would make a lot of sense right off the bat. The Austrian art of yore is fairly sumptuous and luxurious, so much so that some people find it a touch too strong, which is really just a pleasant way of saying that they find it revolting. A lot of it is due to the Vienna Secession. Considering the history of the Habsburgs and the Austro-Hungarian Empire, Viennese art was always bourgeoisie. But this was a new frontier, decoration of the highest order. But wait a minute, this work still shows a clear influence of the wealth surrounding it. It cannot help but be covered in golden color. Just look at the thing. It screams opulence. The Vienna Secession was lavish and grandiose, but it should not be considered a flag-bearer of bourgeoisie apologism. The lush and magnificent designs were less of an affiliation and more of an affliction of bourgeoisie society, one that even the movement's key figures could not escape. Look at these buildings. They must have looked like nothing else in Vienna at the time. Despite the ornate designs, they must have seemed like a complete break from the past. With all that context, let's strike at the heart of the matter. Let's ask ourselves, why are we looking at this painting? If this is compared to the Mona Lisa, then it must also be just as influential. So what's new here? What's changed? What's the X factor? In the late 1910s, Klimt was going through his golden period, named so not just because it was good, but because it was, well, golden. His famous painting, The Kiss, 1907-08, belongs to this period as well. The portrait of Adele Bloch-Bauer I, painted in 1907, was commissioned in 1903 by Ferdinand Bloch-Bauer, a Jewish banker and sugar producer. Why did he approach Klimt in particular? Well, Klimt had already made his name with major projects. The banker wanted to show his admiration for his wife, and as any wealthy patron does, he had a portrait painted. Two birds with one stone, the second one being the show of support for the contemporary artists of his time, particularly those belonging to the Secession. As for Adele, she was from a wealthy Jewish family and the youngest of 7 children. Denied education because of her gender, she became somewhat of a rebel in her married life, as she was found doing the most unladylike thing you could do: smoke. After marrying the much older Ferdinand, she also took an interest in cultural activities to quench her thirst for education. She was friends with Gustav Mahler and Gustav Klimt. Now, either this woman liked the name Gustav, or there were just too many Gustavs running around in Vienna at the time. Nevertheless, she might have liked our Gustav a little more than the other. Now, it should be said that there is no conclusive evidence that Klimt and Adele were lovers, but some art historians think that their close friendship might have been a little more than just friendship. Klimt had relationships with other women he painted, and Adele was the only woman he painted twice, apart from his muse, Emily Folge. Take a look at the first portrait and then the second. The artist has draped the subject in elaborate designs. Erotic symbols like eggs, eyes, and triangles surround her. On first look, it's hard to even locate her in the painting. So engrossed is she in a well of gold. According to author Frank Whitford, the background serves to remove Adele Bloch-Bauer from the earthly plane, transform the flesh and blood into an apparition from a dream of sensuality and self-indulgence. And who can argue? The painting does seem incredibly sensual, almost as if Klimt used gold, one of the most valuable resources on earth, to mythologize this woman. Other scholars and critics seem to think that Klimt's painting is similar to religious iconography. However, while the composition certainly hints at that, the bubbling sensuality is something completely unique. Klimt died in 1918 and Adele in 1925, but 2 years before her death, she wanted the portraits to be given to the Austrian State Gallery in Vienna. After the Nazi annexation of Austria, a lot of paintings were confiscated, including the ones that belonged to the Bloch-Bauer family estate. After Ferdinand's death, the works were not sent to the State Gallery and remained as part of his estate. In 1998, a law passed that introduced greater transparency into the process of dealing with the issue of restitution of artworks looted during the Nazi period. After the war, the works were located, and Maria Altmann, an American-Austrian art collector and Adele's niece, entered into a long legal battle to receive the artworks. It was ultimately ruled that Austria was legally required to return the art to Altmann and the other family heirs. In 2006, she sold the painting at an auction for $135 million. To think that when it was exhibited, critics had negative reactions, including one particularly interesting remark: "More brass than Bloch." If you like this video, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe for more content, and ring the notification bell. What do you think of the woman in gold? Let us know in the comments. We'll see you in the next one.